The story of The Winter's Tale.
Leontes, king of Sicily, and his queen, the beautiful and virtuous Hermione, once lived in the greatest harmony together. Now Leontes had an old boyhood friend, Polixenes, whom he had not seen for many years. After repeated invitations, Polixenes finally came from Bohemia to the Sicilian court to see Leontes and meet the queen, Hermione. This visit gave nothing but pleasure to Leontes, and when, after a long stay, Polixenes was preparing to depart, Hermione, at the desire of her husband, joined her entreaties to his, that Polixenes would prolong his visit.
But now began this good queen's sorrow. Leontes was suddenly seized with an ungovernable jealousy. Every attention Hermione showed to Polixenes, merely to please her husband, increased the unfortunate king's jealousy so much that he turned from a loving and true friend and the best and fondest of husbands into a savage and inhuman monster. Sending for Camillo, one of the lords of the court, he commanded him to poison Polixenes.
Now Camillo was a good man, and he, well knowing the jealousy of Leontes had not the slightest foundation of truth, instead of poisoning Polixenes, acquainted him with his master's orders, and agreed to escape with him out of the Sicilian dominions. When they arrived safely in Bohemia, Polixenes, out of gratitude, made Camillo his chief friend at court.
The flight of Polixenes and Camillo enraged Leontes still more. He went to the queen's apartment, where she sat with their little son Mamillus, and ordered that Hermione should be taken to prison. The king then sent 2 of his lords to go to Delphus, to inquire of the oracle at the temple of Apollo, if his queen had been unfaithful to him. When Hermione had been a short time in prison, she was brought to bed of a daughter. Her good friend Paulina, hearing of the birth, went to the prison and persuaded Hermione to let her carry the baby to the king, that his heart might be softened at the sight of his child. Paulina then went before the king and implored him to have mercy on his innocent wife and child. But this only angered the king the more, and he ordered Paulina from his presence. She left the baby at its father's feet, thinking when he was alone with it, he would have pity on its helpless innocence. But Paulina was mistaken, for no sooner was she gone than the merciless father ordered Antigonus, Paulina's husband, to take the child, carry it out to sea, and leave it upon some desert shore to perish. Antigonus, unlike the good Camillo, obeyed the orders of Leontes, and taking the child, put out to sea.
So firmly was the king persuaded of the guilt of Hermione, that without waiting for the verdict of the oracle, he brought her to a public trial before all the lords and nobles of his court. But when all the court was assembled to try Hermione, the lords returned from the oracle, and Leontes commanded the seal to be broken and the words read aloud. And these were the words:
Hermione is innocent, Polixenes blameless, Camillo a true subject, Leontes a jealous tyrant, and the king shall live without an heir, if that which is lost be not found.
The king, still full of anger, would give no credit to the oracle, believing it to be a falsehood invented by the queen's friends, and commanded that the trial should be continued. At this moment, news came that the Prince Mamillus, on hearing that his mother was to be tried for her life, was overcome by grief, fell into a fever, and had died.
Hermione, hearing of the death of her beloved child, fainted. Leontes now began to feel pity for his unhappy queen, and ordered Paulina to take her away and use all means for her recovery. But Paulina soon returned and told the king that Hermione was dead.
When Leontes heard that his queen was dead, he repented of his cruelty to her, and now that his heart was broken, he believed all the oracle had said. His only wish now was to recover his lost daughter, for without her he had no heir.
So we return to the little princess. The ship in which Antigonus set out was driven by a storm upon the coast of Bohemia, the kingdom of the good king Polixenes. Here Antigonus landed and left the baby, but he never returned to Sicily to tell Leontes where he had left his daughter, for as he was going to the ship, a bear came out of the woods and tore him to pieces. The deserted baby, dressed in fine clothes and decked with jewels, with the name Perdita pinned to her, was found by a shepherd. This shepherd took the babe home to his wife, who nursed it tenderly. The jewels brought him new riches, and so as not to be suspected for his sudden wealth, he moved to another part of the country. He soon became a very wealthy man. Perdita grew up as his own child, and became a lovely maiden, endowed with the natural graces she had inherited from her royal mother.
Polixenes, king of Bohemia, had an only son, Prince Florizel. As Florizel was out hunting one day, he came to the shepherd's house, and the beauty, modesty, and queen-like deportment of Perdita caused him instantly to fall in love with her. Taking the name of Doricles, and in the disguise of a private gentleman, he wooed the young maid, paying her many visits. But Polixenes, alarmed by Florizel's frequent absence from court, had him followed, and soon discovered his son's love for the shepherd's fair daughter. He then called for the faithful Camillo, and, both disguised, they set out for the old shepherd's dwelling.
When they arrived, the celebration of the Feast of Sheep-shearing was in progress, and the strangers were invited to join in the general festivity. Florizel and Perdita sat quietly alone, absorbed in each other's company. The king was so disguised it was impossible his son should know him. He advanced near enough to overhear their conversation, and was surprised by the elegant manner with which Perdita conversed with Florizel. He explained to Camillo,
"This is the prettiest low-born lass I ever saw. Nothing she does or says, but looks like something greater than herself. Too noble for this place." Camillo readily agreed, adding that she had the bearing of a queen. The old shepherd then confided in the stranger, who of course was really the king, saying that if the young swain known as Doricles should win the hand of his daughter, he should have more than he ever dreamed of. He was referring to the remainder of Perdita's jewels, which he had carefully hoarded up for her marriage portion. Polixenes, still disguised, then reproved his son for not bringing his lass a present. The prince, not knowing it was his father, exclaimed, "Old sir, she prizes not such trifles. The gifts which Perdita expects from me are locked up in my heart." He then asked the stranger to be a witness to a solemn promise of marriage he made to Perdita. This was too much for the king, who revealed who he was, and ordered the prince to return to court immediately, and have no further thoughts of marriage to a shepherd's brat. He left, threatening that if Perdita ever saw his son again, the old shepherd her father would be put to a cruel death.
When the king departed, Perdita, whose royal nature was roused by Polixenes' reproaches, said to the prince, "Though we are all undone, I was not much afraid, and once or twice was about to speak and tell your father plainly that the self-same sun which shines upon his palace hides not his face from our cottage, but looks on both alike." Then sorrowfully she added, "But now I am awakened from this dream, I will queen it no further. Leave me, sir. I will go weep."
The kind-hearted Camillo was charmed with the spirit and propriety of Perdita's behaviour. He also perceived that the young prince was too deeply in love to give up his mistress at the command of his royal father. He therefore conceived a plan. He had long known that Leontes, king of Sicily, had become a true penitent. Wishing once more to see his late royal master and native home, he proposed to Florizel and Perdita that they should accompany him to the Sicilian court, where he would engage Leontes to protect them, till, through his mediation, they should obtain pardon from Polixenes and his consent to their marriage. They joyfully agreed, and the old shepherd went along with them also, taking the remainder of Perdita's jewels, her baby clothes, and the paper which he had found pinned to her mantle.
They had a safe voyage, and Leontes, although still in mourning for Hermione and his lost child, gave them a cordial welcome. Soon he perceived a great resemblance between Perdita and his dead queen. He told Florizel how he had lost his daughter, the manner of her departure, and how he desired more than his life to see her again. The old shepherd, hearing these words, fell to comparing the time when he had found the little Perdita, which, along with the jewels and other tokens of her high birth, brought him to the conclusion that Perdita and the king's lost daughter were the same. He went before the king and related the manner in which he had found the child, showed him the rich mantle, the jewels, and the writing on the paper. All these things the king recognized, so that it could no longer be doubted that Perdita was Leontes' own daughter. Leontes felt great joy at this news, but tinged with sadness that Hermione was not living to behold her child.
Paulina, the good friend of Hermione, was present at this happy scene of reconciliation, and she told Leontes that she possessed a statue, recently finished, a perfect resemblance of his dead queen, and she invited them all to see it. This they did, and when Paulina drew back the curtain, so perfectly did it resemble Hermione, that all the king's sorrow renewed at the sight, and he broke down and wept. Then Paulina spoke to the king.
"Prepare yourself for more amazement. I can make this statue move, aye, and descend from off the pedestal and take you by the hand." She then ordered some slow and solemn music, and to the astonishment of all present, the statue came down from off the pedestal and threw its arms around Leontes' neck. The statue then began to speak, praying for blessings on her husband and on her child, the newly found Perdita. Yes, you have rightly guessed. The statue was indeed Hermione herself, the real, the living queen. Paulina had falsely reported her death, thinking it the only means to preserve her royal mistress's life. The queen had lived with her since, but when she heard that her daughter was found, Hermione decided to reveal herself.
His dead queen thus restored to life, his lost daughter found, the long-sorrowing Leontes could scarcely support the excess of his own happiness. He thanked Prince Florizel for loving their lowly-seeming daughter, and the old shepherd for preserving their child. King Polixenes now entered the palace, and immediately took part in the general joy. He forgave his friend for his unjust jealousy, and their old friendship was once more renewed. And he happily gave consent to his son's marriage to the heiress of the crown of Sicily. Thus have we seen the patient virtues of Hermione rewarded, for she lived many years, the happiest of mothers and of queens.